what I'd like you to do right now is look at the quote of the day. Just if you haven't noticed it already, it's about sentence variety. I'm going to pull it up here in a second if you can't read all of it.
Okay.
What we've been talking about is doing some variety in our sentences in the beginning parts, right? What are some examples of the beginning sentence variety that we have learned in the last week or so? Ways to change or vary the beginning parts of your sentences. Yeah.
Using ing word.
Using an ing word. What else?
Using ly.
ly. What else? ed. What else?
To and a bear.
To plus a verb, infinitive. So there's a whole list of 7 of them. Do you have one more?
I think it's the one of when.
There's when words, there's why words, subordinating conjunctions. There's a whole list of words that we have that you also have included in your cheat sheet. So what I want to talk today about is not just varying the beginning parts, but having some variety in the length of your sentences. Is a sentence of only 4 words bad?
No.
I'm really impressed that you said no, because some other people, I think, have thought in their heads today or asked me about it after class saying, yeah, isn't it kind of bad to have 4? Remember the other day when we talked about breaking the rules for a dramatic effect?
It's fine, but it has to be used properly.
It's fine, but it has to be used properly. You have to have a reason to do it. So I want you to look at something that we're going to call walk your paper or walk your story. But before we do that, let's talk about the quote of the day. And I've got it real big up here, so in case you can't read it over there, you can see it here. This sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, but several together become monotonous, boring. Listen to what is happening. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some more variety. Do you see those 5-word sentences?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them, but what does it make it sound like when you have a bunch together?
Kind of like you want more.
Yeah, you
It's not
want
giving it to
more? Is it interesting to read?
you. No.
It's not. It's hypnotizing your reader. Boom, 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 boom. Okay?
When you read it again after you've read it, you read it in your voice.
In mine?
Yeah.
The way you hear it? So what I want you guys to do is think about, do you have, whether it's 5 words, whether it's 12 words, whether it's 3 words, anytime it's not varied in the length of your sentences, you're going to hypnotize your reader. You're going to put him to sleep. Look at the rest of the quote of the day. Now listen. How many words is in this sentence? 2. That's okay. Now listen. I vary the sentence length, and I create music. Music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lift, a harmony. I use short sentences or medium length. Do you see the difference in here? What happened to our sentence length?
It shortens.
All of them?
No. Some of them are longer and some are shorter.
Some are longer, some are shorter.
Variety.
Now look at the last part. You can have really long sentences, but your reader sometimes is not ready for them. If you give a bunch of them together, they're really tiring. They're really confusing. Raise your hand if you've read stories or articles where it's long, 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 followed by long, 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 long. Raise your hand if that happens. What happens to the reader? It's boring. You get lost. You get confused. You get there.
You read it and then you snap back and
Yeah, you read it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm supposed to be focused.
Or you try to see where the sentence ends and you're like, oh, I'm so close, just keep reading.
Right.
kind of droning on.
But listen to the quote of the day. We don't want it to drone on, okay? We want to give our readers some variety to not hypnotize them like that. And sometimes, when I am certain the reader is rested, I will engage him with a sentence of considerable length, a sentence that burns with the energy and builds with all the impetus of crescendo, the roll of the drums, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it is important.
That's a long sentence.
Right. But if we put it there after
A short sentence.
a bunch of short sentences that, maybe lead up to it, 2 words, 3 words, 5 words, boom.
What's a crescendo?
Crescendo. It's
Do you know what is in music?
Yes, I used to play the cello.
Yep.
I used to play the
Okay.
cello.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is what I want you to think about with your paper today. I want you to think about not the whole thing together. Maybe do it page by page, half a page at a time or 3/4 of a page. Look and see about your own sentence variety in terms of length. And here's how we're going to do it. It's called Walk Your Paper. And we don't have a paper, we have a story. So we can really call it Walk Your Story. What it means is, every time you have a period, I'll use a book actually. Every time you have a period, you are going to stop. You're going to walk until you get to that period.
Walk.
There is one little flaw in the premise of this imponderable. Even if they were tempted to fly toward the sun, they wouldn't have the opportunity. When's the last time you saw one flitting by in daylight? Actually, though, the premise of this question isn't absurd. It may appear, for details, that every time you have a period, you're going to stop. Now, I did a really quick example, so you probably can't see it exactly in this. What's going to happen is you will notice the rhythm that you're keeping or the pace that you're keeping, how often you stop during it as you read it. If you find yourself going, stop, stop, in the same amount of time, you will notice that your sentence variety, the length of it, is too robotic. It's like the first part of the paragraph or the quote that we read. Boom, 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 boom. You don't have enough length variety. If you notice as you do it that you're long for some parts, short for others, medium for others, you will have good sentence variety. As you do this, we're going to do it in class. I want you to be checking yourself for a couple of things. If you notice that you're doing a lot of the same stopping in one part, highlight it, note it, star it, something. So you can come back tonight and fix your sentence variety for your length. I also want you to notice that I want you to do it out loud. If you do it in your head like this, you're reading at a different pace than somebody actually might read it if they were looking at it to read it to a class.
You read it faster.
You read it faster. You skip parts, even because you know what's coming in your head. I want you to read it out loud so that you can hear yourself. It doesn't have to be like this. You can mumble it, but it needs to be audible. I need to be able to hear something coming out of your mouth as you do it. So right now we're going to pause. We're going to go out in the hallway. I'm going to send you different directions so you're not right next to somebody. You're going to pause every time you hear what? Or see what?
Period.
Okay, I should hear words coming out of your mouth. I should hear you reading out loud and pausing at every period. All right, if you're listening, clap once. Okay, so we've been talking about, the last few days, sentence fluency. And that means the sentence beginnings, the variety of the beginnings. What are some of the beginnings we've been talking about?
L-Y-E-D.
L-Y, E-D, I-N-G. So we've been talking about sentence fluency, which includes variety. But variety has a couple of things. It has the beginning words, I-N-G, L-Y, E-D, that we've been talking about. But it also has what we talked about yesterday, which is the length of your sentences. How many of you guys walked your paper last night? How many of you keep your hand up if you found some places where you thought, ooh, my sentence length should be changed or more varied?
Yeah, but a few times.
A few times. And that's okay. You probably won't find it in the whole paper. But if you have a section that's boring, what's going to happen to your reader?
Huey will be bored.
Right, they're going to be bored. So if you have a section with bad variety, either in sentence beginnings or in sentence length, you're going to bore your reader. And maybe that's the most important section of your story. You don't want that, right? So today we're going to look at the sentence length and the beginning words, but we're going to start with the length, okay? So this is called count your sentence fluency. So we know fluency includes a lot of different things. On your paper it says how many sentences are there on your worksheet. How many sentences are there in your story? How many do you have total? Now, this might take a little while to do. What I recommend doing is starting this part first. This is going to take you some time to do today in class and then probably for homework tonight too. Starting this part first before you do anything. Some people were trying to count later, but I want you to start this part first just so you have it. So let's just look at your pages. In a minute, but not yet, you can count your whole thing. Do I have a brave soul who would just count the first paragraph and see how many they have?
Okay.
Dylan, why don't you see how many you have just in your first paragraph?
3.
Okay, 3. So maybe he's 3. So if he has 12 paragraphs, he might have 36. Most people last hour were finding that they had anywhere between 50 and 125. Nobody had more than 125. Nobody had less than 50
Of what?
sentences in their whole paper.
You have to count all your sentences.
Your whole paper, okay? So maybe you say you have 80 sentences, right?
That's good, no?
I'm not saying it's good or bad. What if you have a really long story with 120 sentences and like most of it should have been cut? What if you have a really short one that's not developed? Kind of depends on the content that's in your story, the pieces that we've been putting in. So it says make a list of starting words for number 2. So we're going to look at our sentence beginnings here. Make a list of starting words. Do I have a brave soul who would read us some of their starting words? Joe. Okay, Joe, let's look at your first sentence. What's the first word in there?
I
I. Give me another one. Next one.
felt.
Not it in the first sentence. The
Oh.
second sentence.
I
Second sentence is also I. So I have put a tally mark next to I to show that we have one plus now we have that. What's your third one, Joe?
I
Aha! What's your fourth one, Joe?
I
What's your fifth one, Joe?
I already have 4.
No, keep going. After.
Oh, after.
Yep. After. What else?
When.
When. What else?
I.
Oh, again. What's your sixth or seventh or whatever one is next?
Destiny.
Destiny. Next.
However,
However. A transition. What's next?
it's dialogue.
That's okay.
Hey.
Okay. Next.
Oh.
OH.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
The.
Next.
Immediately.
And one more.
I.
Oh, dang. Okay. So here, this is actually a great example. Thank you for bringing our brave soul. In this, we've listed our sentence beginnings, right? And this is only the very beginning of the paper. So this will take a little bit of time, and some people are using the back to spread out because they have a lot of sentences to look at. But did we notice, or did Joe notice, I saw your face and heard your voice, that there's a part in the beginning that has a lot of I's?
Yeah.
And are they pretty close to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what does that tell us that we need to do when you find that in your own stories? What does it tell us? Change it. We need to vary those beginnings. Now, I would say, if you're noticing that you have a lot of I's, but they're all spread out through 4 pages, or 3 pages, or 2, it might be okay. But it makes us kind of realize, as we're doing it, oops, I'm checking or slashing a lot of this same word, and I've been doing it all in the last couple of sentences. So, Joe, what do you think that you're going to do about this right here?
I'm gonna do some sentence beginning.
Some sentence beginning things that we've learned in the last couple of days. So you change some of those things around. Now, as I said, if they're all spread out, it's probably okay. Somebody last hour said, and I can't remember what word it was, but it was about, Miss, I have like 20 of the same thing. I said, how long is your story? They said 5 pages. Are they all close together? No, they're spread out. Maybe you change 5 of them. You don't have to change all of them. Change a couple. You probably, if they're all spread out, are okay. But as we were noticing with this example, we had a lot in one part. So we need to go back and fix that. Let's look at the next example. Number 3 says, look at each sentence. Make a list of how many words are in that sentence. Joe, do you want to be our brave soul or you want to trade off? Trade off.
No,
Okay. So look at your first sentence, Joe. Count how many words are in it.
11.
11. What about your second sentence?
13.
What about your next sentence?
18.
Next. Do you guys see what you're going to have to be doing?
10.
Okay. Do one more for me, Joe, and I'm going to talk. This is a good one. Maybe it's a developed idea.
31.
Okay. So here's the thing. Joe's got a variety here. She has some that are shorter, some that are medium, one that's long. Is it okay to have a long sentence if your reader is rested? Think about what our quote was yesterday. Short sentences are bad if they're all together. They're not bad if they're divided up. And maybe you have something, maybe you use later on something that's only 2 or 3 words as a sentence. Maybe you've used it for dramatic effect. When they talked about, in the quote from yesterday, when they talked about long sentences, Make sure your reader is rested. Joe, what if you have another one that's 31 words right after this?
Then that's really bad.
Then that might be bad because your reader might be tired. They get bored.
Oh,
And
wait.
what happens if your reader gets bored? They stop reading. They don't pay attention to your ideas. Okay? So
It's
you're going to...
actually 43.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the common.
Wait,
Okay.
that's a sentence?
So you might check it. Now she's got a long sentence here. She might check it and see, oops, dang, do I have a run-on? Do I have a comma splice? It might be a clue to her because it's so much longer than everything else that maybe she's got a run-on or a comma splice. Maybe she's got two sentences that are connected appropriately. Remember we talked about this last week? Between two complete sentences, you have a comma, you have a period, a semicolon, or a comma connector, like a fanboy, coordinating conjunction. So if she looks at that and says, actually, it's appropriately done with a semicolon or a comma connector, a fanboy, then it's probably okay. Now she should notice that she shouldn't have many of those in a row. It also could be a clue that it's not okay. So just use this to check yourself, to check your sentence fluency. Okay, so you're going to continue to do this. It should look like this. Okay, medium, short, a lot, medium, short, a lot, or long. Okay, it should be a variety. If you notice you have several short in a row, check it. Several medium in a row, check it. Several long in a row, check it. The last one says, put a tally for each sentence beginning that you have. Now, this is not going to be every single sentence. These are the techniques that we were talking about for beginning words, ly, ed, etc. You're not going to have them on every single sentence, but you are going to go through all of your sentences and see what you have. Maybe you find, Joe, can you find in there? What?
She does.
Yeah, you can. You
Yeah.
can. So, Joe, do you see one up here? You have a immediately word, which would be a when word, right?
And an ly.
And an ly you have. So you're going to start tally marking. Because if you've noticed on your score guide, does anybody remember, we just got it, how many of these sentences I'm asking you to have?
4.
4, you're right. So you should have at least 4 of these categories represented. You might find, oops, I have 4 categories represented, but I've noticed I've had a lot in this category. Maybe that's a clue to you to change also. So today, we're going to be looking at your sentence fluency, which means your variety for this part in either beginning words or length. And that will help the flow of it for the understanding when the reader reads it. Questions? Okay, let's start this at your paper. I'm going to come around and check. Begin.